1999. Hong Kong. A city of lights, money, and secrets. But in the middle of all that noise, something unthinkable was happening, hidden behind a single apartment door. When police entered that room, they expected a routine search. Instead, they wasn't the end. The discovery. The men dismembered her body. They boiled her remains, trying to erase what they had done. And they kept her skull, stuffed inside a Hello Kitty mermaid doll. A symbol of innocence, turned into the face of horror. Weeks passed. No one knew what had happened to Fan, until a teenage girl, the girlfriend of one of the men, came forward. She told the police everything. At first, no one believed her. The story was too grotesque, too impossible. But when officers entered the apartment, they found exactly what she described. Fragments of bone, human tissue, and the doll, inside the skull. Even hardened detectives broke down that day. One said he could still hear the echo of that room years later. The trial. In 2000, the case